the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, my Lord Bishop Emeritus of Kotido Diocese, all protocol observed, land colleagues and everyone. My name is Jude Byamukama. I was given a task to shed a little bit of light in light of today's theme. As we all know, we held a celebration of Mass today, reflect in memory of His Holiness Pope Francis, and I believe I'm not mistaken in noting that this is the first time that we have had a celebration of Holy Mass at the headquarters of Uganda Law Society. It has never happened before, and it happens at a time as we reflect on the lifetimes and teachings of His Holiness Pope Francis. Now, I will talk very briefly, for want of time, about the theme of social justice and what it means, especially for us Catholics, and how relevant it is to the overall goal of Uganda Law Society. Since there are two, even bishops are excellencies, so I'll be saying Your Excellencies. Your Excellencies, Uganda Law Society was created by an Act of Parliament in 1956. It's a lawyer's professional body, but also which has legal recognition in the law. So it was created by an Act of Parliament in 1956, when it was, I think, a very small, humble group of a couple of lawyers. They can't have been more than 5,100 in 1956. And now, from our books, we've clocked over 5,000. So Uganda Law Society has a membership of over 5,000. By law, every lawyer who wants to practice law in Uganda is mandated to be a member of Uganda Law Society by virtue of that Act of Parliament. And Your Excellency the Vice President and Honorable Barnabas Tinka Simile, in fact, this Act of Parliament requires some amendments. When the Council approaches you, I hope you will remember that you came and you have seen for yourselves that this started as a humble group of a professional body of a handful of lawyers, and now it has a membership of over 5,000. Now, His Holiness Pope Francis was very passionate about the theme of social justice. And I will just reflect a little bit to help members, both Catholics and non-Catholics, to understand a little bit about the Catholic understanding of social justice, because social justice underpins every credible legal system. And the mandate of Uganda Law Society is to assist the public in matters of law. Pope Francis explained it in his own words. When you go on, for those who would want to follow on social media, especially X, there is an account called @Pontifex. That's an account that is run by the Holy See, and it has the thoughts of the Pope. @Pontifex, Pontifex. So on the 20th of February, 2 years ago, he wrote that social justice demands that we fight against the causes of poverty. That is, inequality and lack of labor, land and lodging. Against those who deny social and labor rights, and against the culture that leads to taking away the dignity of others. That post summarizes the essence of social justice, what is called in the Catholic Church, what we call the social teaching of the Church. That is, the social teaching of the Catholic Church focuses on addressing inequality and lack of labor, addressing social and labor rights, and most importantly, promoting human dignity. We have a whole compendium in the social doctrine of the Catholic Church that addresses the fact that the Church should focus deeply on ensuring the rights of the marginalized, the people who are at the periphery of society, are respected. And coincidentally, that mirrors in well with some of the aims of Uganda Law Society. There was this whole idea that when lawyers come together, they should try to focus on the needs of the marginalized. Your Excellencies, many of us, when we go to law school, initially we are taught, we go with the belief that we want to study law to go and fight injustice. That's what we used to be told. But by the time we reach fourth year law school or LDC, we say we want to study law so we can make money. And so social justice focuses on pursuing causes that help the marginalized. And that ties in nicely also with the work of Uganda Law Society. And so there is a sense in which I think Father Emmanuel Sita, who looks after the Justice and Peace Directorate of Kampala Archdiocese, should be interested in the work of Uganda Law Society. For instance, Uganda Law Society has legal aid clinics, which are intended to serve the poor and the marginalized, look after orphans, widows, and their land rights, inheritance rights. And it's a very big program. In fact, I think I would not be mistaken in saying it is a flagship project of Uganda Law Society. And it has been around for several years. I've recently heard in the media people saying, what is Uganda Law Society doing and all. But Uganda Law Society, Your Excellencies, does legal aid and has clinics in, I'm told, I think 22 districts. 22 districts. Myself, when I was a second year law student up to the time I completed fourth year, several years ago, 2000 2005, I was a volunteer in a legal aid clinic of Uganda Law Society. And we used to support the poor to access justice. And therefore, that is a role which even the church, the Catholic Church, is extremely passionate about the rights and needs of the marginalized in society. And there are so many programs that you will find. That is why you'll find the Justice and Peace Department. You'll find Catholic organizations like Caritas International. You will find several programs aimed at supporting the poor, supporting the needy. And the needy and the poor and the marginalized who are at the periphery of society were very close to the heart of His Holiness Pope Francis. And so it should be no surprise that very many people, Catholic and non-Catholic alike, were attracted to the passion that Pope Francis had for the needy and the marginalized in society. And so Pope Francis, among the things that will be written about his lasting legacy, is he shed light on that, the social justice component of the gospel. For us believers in Christ, the gospel has an individual component of faith in Christ, but faith in Christ, in Catholic terms, must also empower us to go out and build a better and just society. That's what social justice of the Catholic Church is about. And therefore, the vision and mind of Pope Francis in reaching out to the needy, to the marginalized, to those who are at the periphery of society, in a sense, ties in well even with the vision of any fair and just society. Even when you go to our Ugandan constitution, that's why we talk about rights. Human rights are intended to protect the needy, the marginalized. That's why we talk about them. And that also ties in with the roles even of the government of Uganda, supporting the needy, supporting everyone to build a fairer and just society. And that ties in well with the role of Uganda Law Society. And in a sense, if I want to summarize the vision of His Holiness Pope Francis, it was essentially to see that the needy and the marginalized are not forgotten by society. I would summarize His Holiness's vision that way, and I think the vision of Pope Francis ties in well with the work that Uganda Law Society does and what every fair society, including our country, Uganda, should be aspiring to. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jude. Your Excellency, our member has summarized the role of the Uganda Law Society and how it resonates with Pope Francis and the Catholic community in what we do. Now, without wasting time, allow me go straight to presenting President Isaac Semakade's message. This is his eulogy for Pope Francis. And since I've been sent with my council members, I'll read it verbatim exactly. And this is how it goes. Colleagues, as a disciple of justice, I address you today from abroad to mourn and celebrate the extraordinary life of Pope Francis, a man whose radical spirit mirrored my own in ways that ignite both tears and fire in my soul. We gather to honor a giant, a shepherd, a revolutionary clothed in humility, whose legacy intertwines with mine as two radicals bound by unyielding love for marginalized and relenting courage to defy the suffocating grip of convention. His passing is a wound to the world, yet his life remains a blazing torch, illuminating the path for all who dare to dream justice. Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, was no ordinary pontiff. He ascended to the papacy not to sit comfortably on the throne, but to kneel at the feet of the poor, the broken, and the forgotten. His was a radical gospel, not of platitudes, but of action. He tore through the gilded curtains of tradition with a heart ablaze of inclusivity, welcoming those the world had cast aside, the refugees fleeing war, the prisoners yearning for freedom, for redemption, the queer souls seeking love in a church too often called to their cries. I weep for the tenderness with which he washed their feet, for the ferocity with which he denounced economic inequality as a sin against humanity. His voice thundered against the excesses of capitalism, calling it what it was, a machine that grinds the bones of the poor to dust while the rich feast. He was a reformer, unafraid to rattle the ancient bonds of Catholic Church. He challenged its hierarchy, its wealth, its silence on issues that mattered. That's climate change, migration, and the dignity of every human soul. Oh, how the conservatives trembled at his audacity, how they scorned his humility, riding a simple Fiat instead of gilded chariot, living in a guest house instead of a palace. But Francis knew what they could not grasp. That true power lies not in pomp, but in the quiet strength of standing with the oppressed. His willingness to wade into controversy, speaking of mercy for the divorced, of dialogue with the marginalized, made him a light rod, yet he stood firm, his eyes fixed on a horizon of justice we could all aspire to reach. And here I stand, a man forged in a different crucible, yet tempered by the same flame. As president of the Uganda Law Society and a former student of the Brothers of Christian Instruction, I have not wielded crozier, but a scepter that is omugo in Uganda, which I have banged with fury against the tables of corruption, oppression, and indifference that choke my nation. Like Pope Francis, I have refused to bow to the status quo. I have seen the faces of the marginalized Uganda, the farmers robbed of their land,